The Terracotta Army is often referred to as the eighth wonder of the world. Curious visitors from all over the world come to Xi'an to see this extraordinary ancient spectacle, and they're always amazed by what they see. These fierce eyes have stared forward like this for more than 2,000 years. When you look them in the eye, you can still feel a sense of intimidation from the intensity of their stare. The history and culture of the Qin and Han dynasties have long been a focus of research in China, but personally getting the chance to walk amongst the Terracotta Army and experience the powerful presence of the soldiers is really something else. This is the army of China's first emperor, Qin Shi Huang. Each terracotta soldier was modeled on an actual warrior that was serving in the Great Army of the Qin dynasty. When you look closely at them, you can truly appreciate the intricacy of the details on each one. It's a scene that inspires the imagination. Their posture tells us they would have had various kinds of weaponry.
那么我们来看这只手，他们拿的什么武器呢？他们是怎么打仗的呢？
What kind of army do these 2,000-year-old terracotta figures represent?
像这个武器，我们可以判断它是这样拿着一个武器。这个环实际上是射程弓箭的箭头，这是钉，固定甲片之间的这个钉子。
The Great Army of the Qin dynasty was, in its time, the most powerful military force in the East. Yet the state of Qin began as a small state in remote northwestern China. Strengthened by warfare over hundreds of years, the state of Qin was well prepared for the bitter fighting of the Warring States period. Ultimately, Qin defeated all its enemies and became the first state to unify all of China. This army, known as the Fierce Masters of War, fought battles wherever they went. They fought off nomadic tribes in the west of China and crushed all 6 warring states in the east. They were also successful in conquering the south and the Huns in the northern regions.
这是一支沉睡了2000年的一支军队，一支铁军。
But how powerful was this massive army? What do we know about the secrets beneath all this military might? At around the same time this ancient army in the east emerged from the remote western mountains and unified China, on the other side of the world, the Romans spread out from the mountainous Apennine Peninsula to dominate Europe. History tells us that the Romans were aware of their limitations from the beginning. Intellectually, they inherited everything from the Greeks. Physically, they were no match for the Celts. Technologically, they couldn't compete with the Etruscans, and economically, they were inferior to the Carthaginians. So, how then were the Romans able to build an empire that lasted over 1,000 years? The factor that made possible Roman hegemony in Europe, Africa, and Asia was the formidable Roman legion. Its reputation alone struck terror into the hearts of Rome's enemies.
这是图拉真济公柱上的一块浮雕，是一幅战斗场面，明显的看出来罗马人还有他的敌人达契亚人。
However formidable their enemies, the Romans never feared them, and the more battles they won, the braver they became. The Romans engaged in wars for hundreds of years, and they grew from being an underdog in southern Europe to the superpower of the West. The Roman legion fought against any and all odds, and they conquered all in their path. So how exactly did the Romans go about writing their history? What were the great military exploits that established the reputation of their legendary armies? A nation is not simply born to be powerful. There had to be certain factors in play that enabled the state of Qin and the early Romans to outwit their rivals and emerge as the military superpowers of their day. To answer our questions, we're traveling from Chang'an to Rome. We want to find out what makes a nation powerful in both ancient and modern times.
历史在这儿抛给了我们一个充满悬念的谜团。
This blacksmith in Zhouji, Shanxi is known for making all kinds of ancient weapons. We've come here to learn some of the secrets behind the power of the Qin Army.
是不是方天画戟？
薛平贵拿的
薛平贵
啊，
你这都是唐代的是吧？
Weapons often mentioned in ancient stories such as spears, halberds, hatchets and hooks can all be found here. Knowing why we've come here, Wang, a native of Shanxi, decides to make a weapon that was typical of those used by the Great Qin Army.
王师傅，您这做的是什么？
这叫戈，根据那个秦始皇兵马俑出土的那个戈的样子打的。
哦，你的根据是在秦始皇兵马俑。
哦。
We're trying to recreate the same dagger axe that would have been used by the Qin Army. 2,000 years ago, it was an invincible weapon.
它地下仓库的包装间，是吧？我们在这儿就看几件很珍贵的军事文物。哦，这就是戈。这种光亮是当时就有
原有的，对对对，出土就是这么光亮。经过分析的话，表面有一层铬盐氧化物。
我们在图片上也看到这个，但是真正点对点还让人兴奋不已啊。
Chrome plating has always been considered a new technology that emerged in the 20th century. Yet, people of the Qin dynasty were using this technique to prevent rust forming more than 2,000 years ago.
这个柄是这么装，
后边也能够使用，因为你看，
它这个角是非常锋利的。
对对对，可以勾，这是啄，
勾对，
这还可以推，推。
这个武器是综合的，寒光刺人的。
So why did Qin people choose this type of weapon? Some experts believe the dagger axe was developed from farm tools such as the sickle and axe. By simply fixing it on a long staff, it can be used as an assault weapon, and this means a farmer can handle it as easily as the farm tool he was so familiar with. As Qin soldiers were mostly farmers, this made it very easy to adapt to. As dagger axes were made of bronze, they were far cheaper to make than a sword or saber, and this is the primary reason why dagger axes became so widely used. On the battlefield, foot soldiers swung their dagger axes with great force, in much the same way they would a hoe in the fields. Chariot-borne warriors used the dagger axe to cut down the enemy as they would cut down wheat during the harvest season. No other weapon came close to the dagger axe. Its effectiveness, low cost and ready availability made it a simple yet very lethal weapon. And this is why the dagger axe was the Qin Army's weapon of choice. For the emerging Qin Empire, the dagger axe was the right weapon for the right time. During the same period, the Roman army also discovered their ideal weapon, but it came at a particularly bloody price.
这里是古罗马决斗士学校，下面呢，我带大家去看一个秘密。
And now there is the most famous sword. This is Gladius. Is a particular sword. It's very short. Please.
这是一个罗马短剑，
This is about 60 centimeter, and the heavy is 1 kilo, 1 kilo and a half.
They were very confident of their invincibility, so when they were defeated by Spanish tribes who used this type of short sword, it came as a real surprise. What is it that makes this sword so lethal?
It is easy to move and pull to me, so I can kill with the short arm. You don't kill me with the long sword.
这个剑罗马人把它学过来，成了罗马军队近身格斗的一个有力武器。
This short sword that originated from Spanish tribes turned out to be exactly what the Roman legion had been looking for. The Romans had fared poorly in battle whenever they were confronted with spears, which were at the time the most common weapon in Europe. Their defeat made them realize that they needed to bring the enemy in as close as possible with shorter weapons. It had already been proven that in close combat, heavy weaponry was no match for the flexibility of a dagger. So when this new kind of weapon was adopted by the Romans, it posed a major threat to their enemies. Eventually, these daggers were always worn on the waists of all Roman soldiers as a symbol of their history of great victories. There's an old Chinese saying that goes, "Taking the time to sharpen your axe will not slow down the cutting of the wood." Only with an easy-to-use and effective weapon could a soldier fully utilize his strength in battle. In the case of the Qin dynasty dagger axe and the Roman gladius, warriors of both ancient civilizations made choices that suited them best. Only by adopting these swords could they dominate the battlefield. However, a truly invincible army needed more than just one kind of weapon. The museum at the site of Emperor Qin Shi Huang's mausoleum was one of the first top-class national museums founded in China. Here one can find out more about the Great Qin Army's most powerful weapon.
这个就是弩机，这我认识。
弓弦拉起来勾在这个钩牙上，然后这个是望山瞄准，然后这个就是扳机了。扳机，有了弩的话，就射程一个就保证它一个准确度。准确度，
对，它是一个像望山瞄准儿。由弓箭发展到弩机，这是中国兵器的独特历史。
It was during the Warring States period of ancient China that the crossbow was initially invented and used in actual combat. After the unification of China, the Qin crossbow was improved upon thanks to the collective craftsmanship of all 6 states. But its power is still a mystery.
我手里拿的这个枪，就是叫头枪，是罗马士兵的标配。
The Romans true can use only one type. The important is when the spear arrive or kill or not kill, the spear divided in 2 parts. The enemy don't throw back. It's easy.
Teach me.
Very back and after through.
Very back.
Yes. More power. More power is possible. Because it's too heavy and go across the shield.
Legend has it that the Roman javelin was deliberately designed to be disposable. The fact that the enemy couldn't take it and reuse it made it even more dangerous. But just how deadly was it? In the era of cold weapons, the battlefield was ruled by archers. The crossbow and javelin represent 2 different types of offensive tactics. Now we're going to test the power of these ancient killing tools.